And welcome. This is tagged thanks to Victoria, every bit different. Welcome back, Hosko. We missed you. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Rowey. I'm glad to be back. In fact, I'm actually lucky to be back and lucky to be here because this morning we had a very nice drive in the car, didn't we? We were on radio.
We did, Hosko. We had a great chat. We connected.
Now, as an Irish person coming from another country and different road rules, have you ever done a hook turn before?
This is it. I have done a hook turn a couple of times.
I don't
But
think
I've done
you
it in the company of myself. So I generally think I'm doing the right thing. That would be my intention. But I had you in the car to put a mirror up to me today to tell me that I did it wrong.
Well, my life flashed before my eyes because we hopped in the car. You were very kind to give me a lift instead of making me get an Uber. The first thing you did wrong was you ran a red light doing a U-turn. And I
can't remember.
I genuinely just don't think
I was
you
just
saw.
deep in chat. We were in, a deep conversation. I don't think I ran
It wasn't, okay,
Surely
maybe
not
you didn't
me.
run it. We did a U-turn, but the hook
Accident.
turn element. So we had some, I don't know if it was the tradies that got you distracted while you're driving, but there were.
But I could hear the tradies.
We're to paint the picture for everyone, we're in the middle of the CBD. There's multiple hook turns. There's a line of 3 cars on the left-hand side ready to turn right, and in comes Rowey just next to the line of cars with an indicator on. I can hear the tradies on the outside going, oh.
That was all I heard, but I saw space. I was like, that's perfect. Easy, no cars, and off I went.
Nonetheless, we're here safely.
I wouldn't have known I did anything wrong if you weren't there to shine a light on it, so thank you. Living and learning.
On next episode, we'll be driving with Rowey and teaching her lessons. Anyway, no, off that, we are here, we're alive, we're well, but we will rip through today's episode. It's going to be a great one. We're going to have plenty of fun. I want to say thank you to Kate McCarthy. Sorry you didn't get to go to Dalesford. It was wonderful, but we'll hear about that later. We'll also be wrapping up the AFL season. The men's comes to an end and we get some finals. I'm super excited to hear from Dale Thomas, who is our special guest today, Collingwood Premiership player. He's also on Triple M Breakfast Radio as well. He's outstanding. He's going to have some golden nuggets for us. And then we'll also be diving into our tagged list. But what we're going to start with today, I just want you to launch the AFLW season. You will be starting round 1 this week.
I know, huge week. It feels like it's all ramping up. You know yourself, like the pressure feels like it's building in the club. There's excitement, there's nervous energy, there's selection, not selected, there's all those things going on. But overall, it just feels like a really exciting week that we have ahead of us. And we fly up to Sydney on Thursday to play Sydney in the opening round in, I think, 7 p.m.
7:15.
7:15 Friday night.
I know where.
Thank you very much. As we said,
be.
Hosko, we're not planners here. It's one day at a time. So I just know I'm flying to Sydney on Thursday. I can't wait for the game on Friday. But yeah, we're excited. We hopefully get a big crowd of a Magpie Army up there. Apparently, it's going to be a sellout. So
it's awesome.
Just can't wait to get started now. I think once it starts, the season will fly.
Yeah, and I can't wait as well. We've got Tigers. We're over in Perth. We're playing West Coast on Friday as well. Fly out Thursday. So that'll be really exciting too. Hopefully we can get up. It's obviously a Hosko Cup, but it's also Daisy's first game. A lot of media hype round 1. So I'm really excited to see that and up the Tigers.
Yeah, and just before we get on to our next topic, what about the men's season and that coming to a close? How have you felt in terms of the Tigers and what's the feeling around the club there?
Yeah, well, there's been so much happening throughout the whole season. Tigers obviously got the wooden spoon, so unfortunately it definitely wasn't the way that they wanted to finish the season. We had Adam Uze come in as a new head coach, taking after Damien Hardwick. So, I think it was a disappointing end to the season, and obviously the boys and the whole club sort of sees the same feeling. And unfortunately, again, you also parts of that, they'll obviously do better next year, but I think the sad parts coming out of that is some of the players retiring. So Dylan Grimes also retired during the week, as did obviously Dustin Martin that we've spoken about as well, and Marlon Pickett, who had an amazing story when he played his grand final game after a huge sort of, different upbringing that just was a wonderful story to hear. So unfortunately, I think they'll well and truly look forward to next year, get a little break. What about Collingwood?
I was going to say, I think Collingwood could probably say the same thing. I think it's disappointing end for them, and I think it's a game of moments, and you know, they just fell at the last hurdle, I suppose. And I think there's this feeling of probably a bit of exhaustion. And after the year that was and being Premiership winners the year before, it's always going to be hard to back it up after that. But I think the boys have a well-deserved break on their hands, and I think that they really need that. And I think you can get into paralysis by analysis with things like this and go, well, what went wrong? What happened? What did we change from last year? And, you know, the reality is if you don't change anything and you don't get the results, you say we should have changed things. And then when you do change things, you say that's the reason that it didn't work. So I think you're always going to analyse, and especially when you're in the environment, sometimes it's hard to think clearly around that, and you can always sense that. But I think when people get away on a break, a bit of a perspective shift, and everyone gets to go away and do some work in the off season and come back with fresh minds, I think the Pies will be a whole lot better. I think they're in safe hands with Fly there, and I think there's good structure, and you know, a couple of the older players are still staying on for another year, so I think there's a lot of hope there with Pies, and I think that they'll be in a good place.
Well, you look at just the difference, obviously, even Geelong, so they did the same thing the year before. They won the grand final and then didn't make finals last year, and they've come back and all of a sudden they're, you know, are they in the top 4 or just outside the top 4. So, you know, it's easy to get the turnaround. I do ask the question though, because I've followed a little bit, done a lot of commentating with Triple M this season. So I've loved watching Hawthorn, and, you know, just from a spectator point of view, I've loved watching. I did a couple of their games in the first few rounds where they lost their first 5 and going, oh God, this is like really drastic. They're going to have a shocking season. And the turnaround that they've had, I made a call, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and said they're going to make the Premiership or they're going to make the grand final. And I really hope they do, because I think they're a little bit of they're one of the bandwagon teams at the moment that if you don't break for them, I think everyone's on board, because I just love the brand of football they're playing.
Yeah, I'm the exact same as you. There's definitely a real feeling of excitement there, and freshness, and a lot of youth as well. I think like Jack Ginnivan moving across, then obviously Conor Nash, the Irish guy, I know a bit about Hawthorn through him, and I'm like, I could just, even when you hear them speak about it, you're like, there's a real sense of excitement around it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Who's your grand final pick?
I reckon Sydney and Hawks.
Done. Good.
Who's yours?
I want to say something different, so I'll go Brisbane. No. I want it to be 2 Victorian teams, so Geelong and
You want
Hawks.
it to be? Okay, yeah.
It just makes it interesting. I'm a Victorian, and anyone that listens to this that isn't from Victoria,
100%.
sorry, but... So, Rowey, the other big news in the AFL is your fellow Irish person. I don't know if you're all friends just because you're Irish. I assume you are. But Zach Tui is retired.
Yeah, we actually are all friends. I remember when...
Of course you are.
We are, of course. That's the way Irish people work. But when I first came out to Australia, Zach Tui kindly took me for a coffee and explained to me what I was kind of going into. So he's just been... It's a really sad day for Irish people and Australian people, I think, in Zach Tui, because he's just has been such a trailblazer, and he's married the two worlds perfectly. Like, to quote what he said in an interview before, he's so lucky to play the greatest game of all time, which is a very controversial thing for an Irish person to say about a game that they didn't grow up playing. But you can see and feel the love that he has for AFL, but also the love that he has for being Irish, and you can feel that kind of ring through with him all the time. I think he stays very true to his roots, but he's done such a good job of marrying those two cultures together, and he's brought so much from the Irish perspective and also the Australian perspective. So I hope that he has the magical end to his career that he deserves, and I hope Geelong do really well this year. But he's been an absolute credit to us, and we're very proud of him in Ireland. And
talk me through a little bit more about Irish players coming through. I know, like, I sit there and go, there's a different brand, just like there is in our First Nations people when they get to play as well. There's a different style and a different brand that they play. Coming across from Gaelic, what is it, the skill, like transferable skills, or what is it that is so easy to pick up on, and what is it that's so hard?
I think the hardest part is to understand the game structure, because Gaelic football is a very instinctual game. So like if you see space, you run into it. So say for me playing on the wing, if I saw space on the opposite side of the wing, I would dart across in Gaelic football. Whereas I was doing that my first season and people were like, you're out of structure. I was like, what do you mean? Like, as I saw space, I'm going into it.
It's not like netball. You don't wear a bib and that's where you have to stay.
Yeah, it's just like that kind of stuff. I think the language around it as well. At the start, I was like, boundary? What's boundary? I was like, that's the sideline.
Or
like,
corridor. Like
corridor.
They
yeah,
don't
I was like, what do you mean? A corridor in a hallway? Like, what do you mean? So there's things like that. I think the structure side of the game, the shape of the ball, obviously the contact, but then the parts that Irish people bring to the game are their agility, I think endurance, I think resilience, and very hardworking. I think as Irish people we have to embrace the humility, especially the first couple of seasons, to say we're really not good at this game. There's so much to learn and you really have to start from the bottom and work your way up. And I think Irish people kind of know that that's where you're at when you come in, but you do have to accept that you're not good at the game and you need all the help you can get, you need all the coaching. But I think Irish players have added a lot to the competition, and obviously in the female game it's went from having 1 Irish to now having 34. So if you think about that from an Australian perspective and go take 34 players out of the AFL men's competition or the AFLW competition and take them away from the game and see what that would do to your game at home. So that's the disappointing part of it, but at the same time there's so many great kids growing up in Ireland that I think it's now their dream to play AFLW, which is crazy to think
special,
of, but it's very special the way it's grown, and I hope to see that cohesion between Ireland and Australia and Gaelic football and AFLW and continue to grow and make that a smooth transition, because I think there's opportunity in the AFLW space in particular for us to maybe play both with the way the competition is at, but I think that cohesion needs to happen.
Well, I love what Irish people bring to the game. I think it makes our game so exciting. The thing I hate about what Irish people bring to the game, and you're in shock right now, is, well, their names are unpredictable. Who is Niam? Who is Sayaban? And who is Kieran? I don't understand these names.
So we actually have a language.
Sarah's simple.
Our own language. So Sarah isn't simple. My actual name in the Irish language is Surka Ní Rua.
What?
Surka Ní Rua.
Say that again slowly.
Surka Ní Rua.
Surka Ní Rua.
Yeah. So that's my name in the
Your
Irish
full
language.
name, or that's Sarah?
That's my full name, Sarah Rowe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gobsmacked.
I can speak a whole other language, would you believe?
No.
Yeah, I can.
Can you give me the next?
Cunas a thoughtu, Irish people are going to be like, what is she talking about? Cunas a thoutu. It's Misha Surka Ní Rua. Tá green ag tatnaf sa spare. And that's about all I know.
Oh my God. Do you know what? And I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but I didn't actually know that Gaelic was a language until like a week or two ago.
I know it in certain parts of the country it's spoken like fluently, like all the time. Down in like Kerry, southern parts of the country, but then we learn it in school, obviously, and so it's a big part.
Oh, well, to any other Irish girls, women, men coming across, please just have a simple name, because it's really hard to commentate when I don't know how to pronounce your name. Thank you. All right, we would love to welcome our very special guest. He is Triple M radio host at the moment. He's also a broadcaster, very own Premiership player, Dale Thomas. Welcome, Daisy.
Hello, team.
And the very first time you're in the AFL house without being in trouble.
Which is true.
Welcome.
Yeah, no, I'm very delighted to be here. Usually and historically, I would have had to wear a suit. I would have had to pretend that I'm sad, and I would have had a written apology ready. So there's an outside chance by the end of this, I will be back with a suit on.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry. And on behalf of myself, I understand, the role of podcasters and vodcasters in society. And, I have a role to play within this. So I'm terribly sorry for anything I say from this point on that can be used against me in the court of law. And
you always apologise later. That's the thing.
Well, look, what is it? Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Exactly.
But also, we have had you on, and your co-host here, what a star, was on Triple M Breakfast in our very first week. So on behalf of myself, Rosie and Will, you.
You're welcome. Unfortunately, I don't have a dump button, so that's going
I think we could. Yeah, okay. Well, sorry. Again, that's the written apology.
I love it. We'll get straight into it.
Good.
Now, last time you're here, now you're here again on great terms. We're happy to have you. But we do have some exciting news in-house that you will be covering one of the AFLW games this Friday night.
Yeah, so I'm up on Friday night to Sydney. Sydney and Collingwood opening the season, which is exciting. And sort of I get to come in this afternoon and watch the Pies girls train.
Yeah.
How good's that?
Yeah.
So,
have you ever been into an AFLW
club?
training?
Yeah, I've been into a few clubs.
You've been into a few clubs, yes. Carlton and Collingwood, to name them. But have you ever been to an AFLW inner sanctum?
I've not been to a training. I've been to a couple of games, but in terms of
interesting.
the training, I have not, apart from when I was at the Blues and the crossover there. So I'm excited. I get to come along and shadow what you guys are going to do in terms of your preparation and also sitting a meeting. So I am excited as to what that is and to see how much attention you pay, because I'm going to have a guess that you might be up the back left corner.
I'm sitting right up beside the coach's favourite generally, and
Bull-
will be listening to every word, taking
swearing.
it all in, taking notes as well.
You
So
are the
watch
coach's
this
favourite, though, because
I
I've seen a
am.
few things on the Instagram.
I can't help it. I don't even try. It's effortless.
Rowey's the media girl, though, isn't
Yeah.
she? She's the hype girl, gets everyone up and about.
That's a
Back
bit
your
of
eyelids.
Ruby Slice. I think that's her job, I'm pretty sure. But it's interesting to see now what you think of the inner sanctum of AFLW. So looking forward to having you.
I will be looking forward to being in there. It's funny you mentioned Ruby, because I reached out to her for some insight into some players and to what's happening, and she didn't give any dirt on you, which is good. But you'll be happy to know
that's
it's
the
a bit of a reverse one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
She
give a bit
signed
on
off
her if you want.
Ruby Schleiser, talented but mainly hot. So if you hear that on Channel 7 on Friday, I'm not a creep. They will be quoted. Yeah.
Oh, I love that from Rubes. Now, you had Nick Livingston on Triple M Radio Breakfast this morning. Can you give us a little bit of insight? Because she was speaking about AFLW and some of the injuries.
Yeah, we had a really good chat. Obviously, Nick was there for inaugural parts of the AFLW and the immense pride that she has in what she's been able to be a part of in setting up now, and the strength and the levels that the footy is getting to. She's certainly ecstatic about. But we're having a good chat about the way the impacts and the collisions happen. And I was sort of putting my lens through it of, as a young kid growing up, you start tackling and, you get taught your intent then matches your technique, and it sort of becomes one and the same. Whereas I think a lot of what we see in the AFLW is the intent is so fantastic. We're going in and we're going to get the ball and smash. And at the last minute, there's no real thought of technique.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the big collision injuries are coming from. So we had a good chat about that. I'm not sure what you girls think about that in terms of, is it something you're practicing more, the tackling, how to get your head out the way, how to get hit, what to do when hit?
Yeah, I can definitely talk to that. I think being an Irish coming out and having never played the game before, the one big difference between Gaelic football and Australian rules is the tackling. And dislocated my shoulder a couple of times at the very start, purely to the point that you said, my intent, rushing in or overreaching, all those things. But yeah, we're doing a lot of work on it at the moment, but there's still a bit to go. But we had Max Viney in last season doing some tackle technique stuff with us, so that stuff really helps. But we definitely need a lot of coaching around it, I reckon. But Sarah, you can talk to it. There's been a few broken noses and all that stuff.
Yeah, well,
to add
I'm
to the party.
exhibit A of that. So it's like, I think I only started learning how to play footy at 20, and I've had a few head knocks and a few other things, and I have no doubt it's because I go 100% head first at the ball and hadn't been taught. So I'm excited to see that next generation of players coming through, the ones that have played since Auskick, because I think that's where you learn specifically how to tackle, specifically how to protect your body, and I think we'll see hopefully a drastic change in the next few years.
Because this year you've effectively been almost full-time, So there's been more time to that, because Nick was making the point that in the first few seasons there was such a short, condensed window coming into the games that you couldn't focus on everything. Like, you couldn't work a game plan, ball skills, and then tackling effectively, because it is an intent-driven thing for the most part. That was left to the side. No, we'll just have a crack. But as we've seen now, I think that's changing with the extra time available.
Yeah, you literally had 12 weeks to get yourself right. And again, I remember my very first season. It's like 12 weeks to learn the whole game, learn everything, structures, tackling, the knowledge, everything.
Is that a fly on your head?
Yeah.
You did touch.
I was trying to ignore that.
The fact when you looked at me and then one eye started following the fly.
I'm glad you said
Why is it around me? It should be around you, if anything.
I'm freshly showered, so it ain't me.
I've now lost my train of thought. So,
12 weeks.
12
Yeah, you were
weeks,
so good.
Okay.
Sorry.
12-week season. Now we've obviously had 7 or 8 months off to prepare, but in that time a lot of it is players offering their time up to do extras on their own, and it's a lot of preparation with no application, but you do have that time to go off and do your own thing with someone like a Max or whatever, and players can take initiative. A couple of us girls at Pies went to America to do a training camp and just things like that, but there's still
you
a lot
went
of
on your
work.
own to the States.
Where'd
you go?
We went to Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a great Exos. Have you heard of it?
No, I have not.
So it's basically
I didn't understand what you said, but I haven't heard of it.
Exos. I know it was the language barrier here
What
between
did she
the Irish
say?
and the
I need to
Australians.
translate.
I'll talk slower. But
Could you write it down? You don't write with an accent, do you?
I'm outnumbered here. Can we get another Irish in the room, please?
I like this. This is good.
So it's basically a training camp where you train in the morning and in the evening, and a lot of NFL coaches come in and coach there. So they were just teaching us about what they do over there, and there's players like Debo just training in there, and that's what they do in their off season. So they basically feed you. They do your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then you train morning and evening. And so we took a lot away from that, but it was a different type. It was all about like acceleration, deceleration. There we go.
Deceleration.
La, la, la.
Where's she
You go
going?
next.
Going faster than going slower.
I'm conscious of the language barrier.
Speaking of like development, obviously we've got a lot of new AFLW players coming into the competition as well, and it would be rude of us not to ask for a little bit of advice from a previous Premiership player. Loves getting
from
in
a
trouble.
troublemaker.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do we want?
You don't use car.
I would say that you live on the edge a little bit more, and I think you're great for the game. But what have you got any advice for maybe some of our young players coming through, or players just
What
starting
not
the
to
game?
do?
Well, when you are a young player coming through, I think it's all about having a football in your hands.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you've seen me. I carry a football around when I do my Channel 7 stuff because it's like my security blanket. I'm so relaxed when I've got a footy in my hand that once we go on air, I throw it away and then I'm cool and calm. But my greatest bugbear when I got old in my career and late and frustrated was that kids would come in and they'd touch the football from when they get there to when they leave, and that'd be it. So you might have, if you train well, you might get it 30, 40 times, in the match sim, plus the extra bits, plus the warm-up kicks. You're not touching the ball enough. Yeah. And I was a kid who had a football wherever I went. I'd walk down, tree, bang, try and hit it. Still now, walking along.
What do you mean as a kid? You still do?
37's a kid, yeah. I'm not sure when you have to grow up. But touch it, like having a ball in your hand and then figuring out what it does until it's almost an extension of yourself. I still think that's the biggest thing kids forget these days, and people coming through. And even at the elite level, you see some people not being able to kick on their opposite foot.
Yeah.
If you can have skills that are competent both sides, you get yourself in trouble, you understand what the ball is going to do, you practice everything when you need it the one time during a game or a big moment. That's why the better players can do it, because it's there. It's on auto recall and just bang. Yeah. I've done this before.
Speaking of having a footy in your hand growing up, you have a daughter.
I do.
Would you like her to play AFLW? Does she play AFLW?
She's done Auskick. She did it the year coming into one of the COVID years. So she got on the back of netball after that. So the netball's taken over. She's quite handy, left and right foot. Doesn't really like the go in and get the ball stuff yet. So netball's sort of worked out well there. But no doubt at some point she's interested. She goes for the Carlton.
Carlton. Well, first time the finals in a long time. Well, properly.
So look, she no doubt will be, but at the minute netball's taken over a little bit.
And what
I was also a very good netballer too. You didn't do enough research. Best on ground in a mixed grand final.
Mixed grand final. I reckon I've heard that one before. What, did you get best on ground too?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No.
You did?
Yeah, best on ground.
Well, if it's Tilly, isn't it? Yeah. So if Tilly doesn't want to get into AFLW, so fine. But as a girl dad, what has AFLW done for you? Or you're in the space, you see the space.
Yeah, I just think the opportunity is unbelievable, and you girls probably see it more so than me, but so many of her friends play football at their local, I think they're St Kilda City down wherever she goes to school, but just the fact that that's an avenue now, the opportunity to follow a pathway and to have a dream. You see, believe. You can't see it, you can't beat it if you can't see it. Was catch cry early on. I'm massive on that. The fact that Friday night everyone will sit down. There's no football in the AFL men's sense. perfect, sit down, you still get your fix. And the level that the game is getting to is brilliant. And there'll be young girls watching along on Friday night, maybe for the first time, but that's where the fire will start and the dream and the journey process begins.
Well, if she wants to follow the Tigers, she's more than welcome to. I'll bring her down and she can have a kick.
She is not allowed to swear, so she will not be following the Tigers.
It's time for the tag list, thanks to Victoria, every bit different. So with our tag list, if we love it, we tag it. So restaurant, film, cafe, you name it, we're tagging it. What's on your tag list for this week?
Well, we took a lovely trip out to Daylesford on the weekend, on Saturday, and I thought we'd just go through our whole itinerary. So
let's go. Again,
Victoria, every bit different. They put together a wonderful little day trip out for us. We started off at Cliffy's. Well, I say we. I started off at Cliffy's
and
for 45 minutes.
Late. And we knew one of us was going to be late, but because every time I meet Hosko, I say to myself, I know she's going to be late, so I'm going to be late as well, and then we're generally on time.
Yes.
This time you just happened to be on time.
Yeah. Because it was an hour and a half drive, so I thought, make sure I leave on time. And anyway, so it was wonderful. I got to know the waiter, James, really well. He was lovely. Had a few coffees. The food was great. It was really cool. The interior of Cliffy's was amazing, wasn't it?
It's really cozy and just traditional, I felt. And to speak about our orders as well, we had the same order except for the halloumi and honey, which I'd never tasted before, which I was obsessed with.
Yeah, exactly. Game changer. You'll add that to your meal every time.
And then we went to a spa, and Hosko, you can do a good job of pronouncing it, but on the way, what happened? My coverage went, and
coverage
we drove
on
in
your phone, not your
coverage. Not my clothes. And Hosko and I drove in separate cars because both of us had messy cars. And I had to stop and ask 4 different locals how to get to the spa. So I was late. You were on time again.
We left at the same time.
You are perfect, aren't you? Yeah.
We had a Japanese massage and Japanese bath or bathing. So I'm going to pronounce. How's your Japanese pronunciation?
I'm just good at using the chopsticks.
Yeah. So we went to Shizuoka Ryokan, if you want to say it in a traditional Japanese way. But it was gorgeous. I arrived early on time, waited half an hour for Rowey. But in that half an hour, they decided I could go in and do my bathing. Now, they had a little onsen. We had our private onsens, private one each. And I didn't realise, so we were meant to bring our bathers. I actually forgot my bathers. So I was prepared to just go in like a little sports bra and my undies. But the lady came up and said, here, have a shower and then hop straight in the bath. And I said, with like my clothes on? She said, no, naked. So it was a big surprise for me because I didn't. Yeah, it was. But I felt so liberated. Like it was really refreshing. I also stood up in my onsen in my little spa and I looked out. I had this little window and all of a sudden a pony appeared. I'm not kidding. There was a horse. So it was just so nice. There was a little Japanese bathhouse kind of thing.
Yeah. I had the same experience when they said you can't wear clothes in the bath. I was like, all right, okay, we're just going to roll with this. And then I was like, I should have brought a book or something. And then obviously I still had no coverage on my phone. So I was left for that full hour just sitting there with my thoughts. And it was quite confronting. Lots came up for me.
Are you okay? Do we need another welfare check?
I came out of it and I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to do this. I had solved life's problems in that bath. So it was it was so refreshing. And then we obviously wore our robes as well. Yes. And our flowery robes.
When I say robes, the kimono. Traditional Japanese kimono.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't know that was the name.
Well, that's okay.
Well, I actually didn't know how to put it on.
Well, we worked this out, and I think everyone that can see it, if you can jump onto AFL.com or our tagged vodcast, make sure you have a look at this because we're going to show you the 2 ways that we both put on our
So it's like there's two types of people in this world. And, you know, I saw pronounce it again? Kimono. And I put it on a way that I would think that you should wear it, kind of like a hospital bib. And you put it on.
I put it in like a sexy way.
So hers was like down here, and I was like, you were like party at the front, and I was like party at the back. There's two types of people in this world.
But I'm also curious. I'm going to actually put a poll to our followers in the audience because I want to genuinely know how people would wear this. So we've got both photos.
What's the right way?
Yeah, we then showed each other the photos and we could not stop laughing and pissing ourselves because it was genuinely hilarious. Two types of people.
Exactly. And then we went to the restaurant.
Yes.
You can pronounce this again for me,
Yes.
Hosko, please.
Kadota.
Kadota. Yes. 12-course meal.
It was pretty much a 12-course meal. Now,
Two hatted restaurants.
yes, now
two
poor
hats.
Ruby.
One here,
I
one
just
here.
want to make it known, Rubes, I'm so sorry that Rowey went to a hatted restaurant before you.
Oh, it was actually outstanding, wasn't it? It was like the ice cream at the end. They had this little truffle ice cream at the end to clear the palate, as they say. And we had a girl who was serving us as well, who was like performing for us
Yeah.
almost. But it was just an amazing experience, and the sun was coming down at the same time.
So
It's one of those
sunset.
evenings that you wouldn't forget.
Oh, it was wonderful. And the food was amazing. So we wanted to, say a big thank you to everyone in Daylesford because it was absolutely amazing, and to visit Victoria as well. Victoria, every bit different. That was amazing. And I'm excited, to go back to Daylesford again. I'd love to stay there for the night and explore a little bit more, maybe see the Botanic Gardens. But then I'm just excited to let's lock in our next day trip and see what else we can come up with.
100%. No, I'm with you, Hosko. It was such a nice experience and so nice to get out of Melbourne just ahead of round one.
And the
On
oysters.
the horizon. And the
We
oysters,
forgot
I forgot to talk about the oysters. Yeah, that was an experience. I was petrified to
There were
have those.
two kinds. I don't like oysters.
Like, and do you need to chew them or do you just swallow them?
The first
We
time
tried
got a
both
video
and we're
is-
not really sure what.
I'm just
not
looking
really
at producer
sure.
Tegan's face after you asked that question.
So that is all that we have. But don't worry, we'll be back next week with all the update from AFLW round 1.
Rowey, I've lost my train of thought, but I do have something. You know what else is back? AFLW Fantasy. There are some great prizes on offer, including the major prize, which is a Toyota Hilux, valued at or up to $70,000 drive away. So get around that, which is exciting. We also have some footy cards here that we will be wrapping up. We've had a great day today, plenty of laughs, and I'm excited for next week to chat all things AFLW and after round 1.
And remember, Tagged is a podcast and vodcast. So get it to your ears, listen to it, find it on every AFLW website, and for the rest of the W season.